Alrighty, so first of all, Happy New Year to everyone, and I'm pretty sure by the time this video is uploaded, pretty much half of the world is already in 2025. But because we live in the West Coast here in the US, we're one of the last one to celebrate the new year and ring in 2025. But I'm pretty sure by the time this video is uploaded, the East Coast is still in 2024. But that being said, because this is the last day of the year, we gotta do a video talk about some of the biggest storyline that happened in 2024. And also, did I mention this is also the last video that I'm going to do in 2024 as well? Yeah. Obviously, it makes sense the fact that we do a video like this talking about some big storyline that happened in MLS in 2024, and there were definitely some interesting storyline that we have seen throughout the season. So obviously, the first big storyline that happened in MLS in 2024 is the LA Galaxy back on top with their sixth MLS Cup and extending the most title that any MLS team has ever won. And as I said before, it feels like the league is in a better place when the Galaxy are back on top and especially winning championship. I mean, I know there are going to be some people that disagree with that, but the Galaxy have always been the staple of a top tier team in MLS, and it's been kind of weird for the past decade to see how inconsistent that they've been, especially at times. It was really strange to see them being very bad to a point where they were 1 year winning the wooden spoon as well. Like that, something you would have not expected the Galaxy would be in the post Bruce Arena, Landon Donovan, Robin Keane, and David Beckham era. But credit to the Galaxy in terms of building themselves back up and especially fixing the biggest problem that they had during the era where it was easily the worst period in this proud franchise history. And now not only they got themselves their sixth MLS Cup, something tells me they could go for a couple more because remember the last team to repeat as MLS Cup champion is the LA Galaxy. So we'll see whether or not if they can do so similar to what they did about a decade ago. And then of course the second big storyline is the New York Red Bulls. So I mean, I know some people will say that it feels like it's a That's So Metro moment for the Red Bulls to make a deep run, only to fall short on the final hurdle. But at the end of the day, even in that MLS Cup, I didn't think they really had some That's So Metro moment, especially they never led in that game as well. And coming into the game, the Galaxy were heavy favorites in that game, and I thought they fought really hard in that one and the Cup final like that. It's really kind of a game of inches, and it also doesn't help the fact that when you go down 2-0 very early in the game. But yeah, the Red Bulls throughout this run that they had, they didn't really go through That's So Metro moment, and we thought they were going to. I mean, in the second half of the regular season, there was a bunch of those That's So Metro moment, and it feels like it's going to be another first round exit. But they proved everyone wrong by making this deep run that they have, and let's see whether or not if that could be something that they can replicate. Most likely it won't be because the last time the Red Bulls made it to MLS Cup, it took them about 14 years to get back to the stage. And then of course the third big story point is another record breaking point season for Inter Miami. So once again the points record is broken this season with Inter Miami reaching 75 points. And say what you say about how it just doesn't have that same feeling when New England broke it a couple of years ago, mainly because, people criticize Inter Miami in terms of simply almost kind of buying this supportership with all the talent that they have. And especially when you have the greatest player of all time and his friends there. I mean, it's not that hard to get the points record in a single season. But you got to remember, during that season, they didn't have Messi for the majority part of the season. In fact, pretty much half of the season they did not have Messi. People forget that Inter Miami for part of the time they were down a couple of key players, and throughout the whole season, I think people forgot the fact that the sporting cast of this team was really strong, and that thing is something that I don't think it has been talked a lot about. I mean, I don't blame the media for not talking about it. Consider it's easy to continue to talk about Messi and his friends over and over again and not about the supporting cast. But the supporting cast was very strong throughout the season. They were really one of the reasons why this Inter Miami team did well, and this is also why maybe this team might not crash and burn after Messi and friends leave. I mean, I know people will be waiting for the demise of Inter Miami once Messi and his friends leave, but something tells me it might not be the case. I mean, they do have some really good talent, and those supporting cast they could be leaders of this team in the near future as well. But that being said, we did see a bit of a demise for Inter Miami, at least in the playoffs, and this is something that pretty much every neutral in MLS and pretty much every fan base were very happy about this, which is Atlanta United taking down Inter Miami in the first round, going down as the biggest upset we have ever seen in MLS history. And this is not just recency bias. I mean, I don't remember a last time a team that just sneaked into the playoffs like Atlanta United being a 9 seed get to the first round to face against a team that broke the record for the most point in a single season. And unlike what we saw with New England when they broke the points record. They also exit in the first round, but mostly because they had a long break in between, and you can kind of understand why that really kind of hurt the team. Miami didn't have that. I mean, they had I wouldn't say a long break, but I would say even a shorter break, and they had a lot of games in between. Now, does that of course hurt the team? Maybe, but the same goes for Atlanta United too. Atlanta had even more games you could argue in a short amount of period. And the fact that they still persevere and able to take down Inter Miami like that, yeah, easily the biggest upset we have ever seen in MLS history, and one that well that definitely really tanked the ratings and also anger the Apple TV people and also Don Gabbard in terms of seeing his shiny new toy getting ousted in the first round. It just feels like it's a win for the general public and certainly for every fan base. Like it's a crazy world we're living in when Atlanta United is being praised by every single fan base of knocking down the giant known as Inter Miami. Imagine saying that a couple of years ago. That would definitely not be the case. Consider Atlanta used to be one of the most hated team and a team that has at times some of the most obnoxious fan base in the league. And then of course, we talk about the biggest upset in MLS history. We also got to talk about how it was really upset central this season in the playoffs, especially in the Eastern Conference. I mean, the Eastern Conference, by the time we get to the second round, it was completely unrecognizable. All the favorites in the East that I thought was going to go deep, all of them wiped out. In fact, the top three basically got eliminated in the first round. When's the last time we've seen an MLS playoffs where the top three seed team getting eliminated after the first round? That's how crazy it was in terms of the Eastern Conference. And I think what's even crazier is the fact that in these best of three series, you would expect maybe we won't see as big of these upset as we've seen in past time, because in past time if you see upsets happen, maybe it's kind of like a one and done kind of situation. But here, in order to create an upset, these heavy underdog team needs to win at least two games, whether in regulation or shootout, to do so. And the fact that they were able to do so, I mean, that just really kind of surprised a lot of people. And I even said that going back to when Vancouver won 5-0 against the Timbers, I did say that I had a feeling this year would be the year of the upset. I mean, you know, so I definitely did not imagine the top three seed in the East to get eliminated in the first round, but I just had a feeling there was going to be some upset. And let's also not forget about the Western Conference too. The West also had some interesting upset as well. I mean, Seattle beating LAFC in the playoffs after LAFC pretty much owned Seattle for the past couple of time. We even see Minnesota knocking off RSL, even though I mean I don't know if you could count that as a big upset or so forth, but yeah, I think the chaos was mostly in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it was it's the Eastern Conference. It just got really chaotic when a 7 seed made it to MLS Cup. And then, of course, the other big storyline is coaching change. So, we talked about in recent year, it feels like teams have definitely become less and less patient in terms of their head coach compared to previous year. And as a result of that, we had a record 12 MLS team making coaching changes throughout this season. Like that's literally about half of the league making coaching changes throughout, and that kind of makes it interesting heading into the season where technically we still have 4 teams that still have not named their head coach. I mean, throughout the season we did had head coach that is being named, but yeah, it's interesting the fact to see 12 different teams that are able to do so, and yet the 2 teams that I thought for sure that they were going to axe their head coach, that is Sporting KC and New England, they were not among the 2 teams that were part of this 12 MLS team kind of coaching carousel cycle we've seen. And again, I think that's going to continue because again, it feels like now days compared to previous year where maybe GM will let let them a little bit more leash when it comes to their head coach. If the resort doesn't deliver, these GMs are not going to be afraid. These sporting directors not going to be afraid to pull the trigger and basically look for a new head coach to get the resort, because we've seen it before where if you get the new head coach boost or the new interim head coach boost, it can really propel your season. And a lot of these sporting director and GMs going to see that, and they're going to use that as a way to try to get their season back on track. And then, of course, one of those head coach that was part of it that was kind of surprising. I mean, with the 12 MLS team that make a coaching change, there was some that were very surprising. Probably the most surprising one is the Union letting go of Jim Curtin after 11 seasons. So Jim Curtin was the second longest active head coach in the league. Is only behind Peter Vermees in terms of that stats. He's been with the team since 2014, and I know the Union had a bad season this year, but I was really surprised that he was shown the curtain, no pun intended, that is after this season. Especially, I don't think the disastrous season that the Union has had is really all on Jim Curtin. It just was just so many underachieving that was a factor. There was also injuries that plays the factor there too. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised the Union decided to move on from Jim Curran. Though again, it feels like this is a Union team that I've said before. They're going through a different direction. They're going through a bit of a transitional period. They know that the current core that they have is not good enough to get them over the mountaintop. So yeah, they're gonna make some sweep changes to try to do so. So we'll see whether or not if these changes, of course, worked out. If these changes work out, then nobody is going to question that. But if these changes does not work out, I already hear a lot of Union fans have not been happy with their ownership group, especially with the cheapness that their ownership group is. This could get ugly, and this could be regrettable decision that the Union, of course, might have. And then, of course, the third big storyline, or actually not the third big storyline, but I think we're now up to one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. The eighth big storyline is Kevin Sullivan, of course, making his debut at the age of 14. He's actually broke the record that was held by Freddie Adu in terms of the youngest player to ever make his debut. And this kid has a lot of talent. We know how much talent he has. Hopefully, he doesn't end up as the same path line as Freddie Adu, but there's no doubt that in a couple of years he's going to be a regular starter. And people have already said that he's even better than his brother Quinn Sullivan, and Quinn Sullivan has been playing in a high level for these past couple of seasons for the Union. So there is one optimism at least for Union fans, is that they have a very good youngster that already is contracted to go to Man City as well. So yeah, this is going to be very interesting, and that in these next couple of years there's going to be a lot of eyeball on him. Hopefully, they won't put too much pressure on him, because that's the one thing that I think can ruin a young player. When you have the media attention, you can't really just criticize the young player that much. And it's also up to Kevin Sullivan to see whether or not he can handle the pressure, because the pressure is definitely there for him to perform. Especially, he's a guy that is already touted that he could be the next big name for the U.S. men's national team. And again, it's still a little further down the line, but it's going to be interesting to see how his career is going to turn out. And then I think the other big storyline is Christian Benteke unexpectedly winning the Golden Boot. Now, I know it's a little bit disrespectful to say that Christian Benteke unexpectedly win the Golden Boot. Like, I'm kind of surprised whatsoever. We know Christian Benteke is a goal scorer. He's been shown throughout his career. I did not expect him to be this lethal, especially late in his career. One of the biggest reasons why Christian Benteke is not considered one of the best number 9 in the world is the fact that he has had problem when it comes to consistently putting the ball into the back of the net game after game. But this season, it's been a complete different story. I mean, he has been just a very lethal full threat, especially in the air too. He's probably the most lethal player in the air. Like, whenever you defend a set piece, or when you're defending a cross coming into the box, everybody's got to pay attention to Christian Benteke. You almost need to double or triple team him, or else he's gonna dunk over you and score the goal there. So yeah, with the way that he's able to do that, and again winning the Golden Boot. I mean, I had a feeling he was gonna score 10 or 15 plus goal, but Golden Boot. I mean, that was very unexpected. I mean, there was some bigger names out there that I thought could have won the Golden Boot. I mean, Tuto Hernandez probably could have done so. That Denis Bouanga could have done so, and even Chicho Rongo could have done so too, because Chicho was on an absolute tear before we all know his ultimate downfall that he had in the second half of the season. But here's Christian Benteke, just kind of came out of nowhere continue the consistent pace and eventually win the Golden Boot outright. And unfortunately, despite him winning the Golden Boot, he might be considered one of the few MLS players to ever win that award, and yet still unable to get his team into the playoffs. And then finally, in terms of the biggest storyline it happened in MLS is of course Chucky Lozano going to San Diego FC. Obviously, that's a huge foundation piece for the San Diego team, and in some way, it feels like they're taking a page out of LAFC in terms of signing a player that has done well in Europe, a bright Mexican player done well in Europe, bring them to the league and use him as a big foundation piece. And we know how that worked out for LAFC with Carlos Vela. I mean, he was breaking records left and right as a result of that. And I don't know if Chucky Lozano is going to be that kind of player as well. But there's no doubt that the profile is definitely there. He's a guy that I can say he can still easily ball out right now in Europe. But the fact that he's able to choose San Diego coming to MLS and pretty much follow the same pathway as Carlos Vela has had. I mean, I'm excited to see how he's going to do and how much he will really excel the San Diego team. I mean, when you look at the San Diego team, I mean, there's still a lot of question mark on this team, and I think this team compared to the previous expansion team, St. Louis City, I don't know if they're going to do as well as what St. Louis has done. I mean, what St. Louis did was just absolutely incredible, and part of that is because they had a plan of how to play. I don't know how San Diego is going to do so. I mean, some might say that their new head coach might do something similar to Greg Berhalter do, which that doesn't really kind of please a lot of San Diego fans until you realize Greg Berhalter actually with the style that he played, it actually worked out really well in MLS, especially with the Columbus Crew. And yeah, again, we'll see how San Diego does. I mean, after the incredible season that St. Louis has that, and especially in these last couple of expansion teams that has, for the most part done relatively well in their first season. There was definitely that pressure that they of course want to follow that suit as well and compete for the playoffs. But again, there's a lot unknown. We will really start to find out when they actually start to play and especially continue to build the roster as well. Because I just have a feeling this roster is not done in terms of signing. They continue to sign the players, and then when they get to the part where they are going to be playing their first game, it is going to be very interesting to see how they will look and whether if they get the right pieces. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Looking at the 10 big storyline that happened in MLS in 2024. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video and if there's any big storyline that I didn't mention, because I'm pretty sure I missed some big storyline. It's not easy to pick 10 big storyline. But if I did miss some, let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.